They say rain has a way of washing away pretense, of making everything brutally, beautifully honest. That night on set, it poured so hard the lights turned to halos of gold bleeding into darkness. The world collapsed into something intimate, just two people standing close enough to feel each other's breath. Her hands pressed against my chest, trembling on cue, mine wrapped around her waist with practiced precision. Please, I whispered, my voice cracking in exactly the right place. Don't walk away from this, from us. Her eyes glistened with tears that caught the studio lights perfectly. Then give me one reason to stay. I'll give you everything, I breathed, my heart, my mind, every broken piece of my soul. The kiss was seamless, choreographed, perfect. Rain hammered the set, the crew held their breath. Chemistry radiated from us like heat. And then, cut, that's a wrap. Applause erupted, crew members whistled, the director beamed. Another flawless scene, another beautiful lie packaged and sold to millions. As I stepped back, the actress smiled warmly, already checking her phone. To her, nothing significant had happened. It was Tuesday. It was work. To me, it was another reminder that my entire existence had become performance art. The world knew my face before they knew my humanity. Billboards towered over highways, with my image 20 feet tall. Movie posters plastered subway stations. My face glowed from phone screens across the globe. People recognized me instantly. They loved my enigmatic smile, my carefully cultivated mystery. The character I played both on screen and off, the version of me that never truly existed. Behind the glamour, my life hummed with relentless noise. Agents spoke in percentages and profit margins. Managers discussed me like I was a portfolio to optimize. Publicists crafted statements for opinions I'd never held. And my mother, who had seamlessly transformed from parent to manager, spoke only in control. Every decision was architected, every public appearance calculated down to the second, every smile measured for maximum impact. Even love was a scheduled event. I had a girlfriend the world adored. Our romance generated headlines, trended on social media, drove engagement through the roof, magazine covers, coordinated Instagram posts, public displays of affection, timed for maximum visibility. But behind closed doors, we were strangers who shared nothing but a narrative. None of it was real. I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment when fame transformed from dream to prison, when the applause started feeling like chains, when I realized I was drowning in a sea of people who saw me but never knew me. Every interaction felt transactional. Fans wanted pieces of me. Photos, autographs, moments they could post online. Colleagues wanted connections. Strangers wanted validation that they'd been near something extraordinary. No one wanted me. They wanted what I represented. The loneliness felt infinite, crushing, the kind that makes you question whether you're even real anymore when you're alone. That's when the thought crept in, quiet and dangerous. What if I disappeared? Not permanently, not dramatically, just long enough to remember what it felt like to breathe without an audience. The idea terrified everyone except me. Absolutely not, my mother snapped, her voice sharp as glass. Do you understand what you're suggesting? Your image, your career, everything we've built for years. I'm suffocating, Mom. My voice came out hollow. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize the person staring back. She laughed, actually laughed, like I'd told an absurd joke. You're tired. We'll adjust your schedule. At a spa day? I don't want a spa day. The words exploded out of me. I don't want another interview where I pretend to be profound. I don't want another relationship choreographed for cameras. I stopped. How do you explain hunger to someone who's never starved? I want to be loved without being recognized first. The room went silent. That's impossible, she said finally. You're a public figure. This is the price. But what if I refuse to pay it? So I did something that would either save me or destroy everything. I announced an extended sabbatical abroad, finding inspiration, recharging creativity. The press release was carefully worded, my mother's fingerprints all over it, even as she fumed privately. But I never left the country. Instead, I disappeared into plain sight. I changed everything. My name became something ordinary, something you'd forget 5 minutes after hearing it. I traded designer suits for thrift store jackets worn soft with someone else's history, cut my hair differently, wore glasses with plain frames, changed my posture, the way I walked, the cadence of my speech. I enrolled in a small college nobody had heard of, studying something that genuinely interested me for the first time in years. And then something miraculous happened. No one stared. No one whispered. No one pulled out their phone to capture proof they'd seen me. I was invisible. It felt terrifying and intoxicating in equal measure, like learning to walk after years in a wheelchair. For the first time since childhood, I was free. My first day of actual college was chaos. The campus vibrated with genuine energy, unscripted laughter, real arguments about nothing important, students rushing between classes without caring who watched. I got lost immediately, took a wrong turn, ended up climbing the east staircase too fast, glasses fogging from the temperature change, heart pounding with nervousness I hadn't felt in years. My foot caught the edge of a step. Time slowed. I saw myself falling, arms windmilling uselessly. Then a hand shot out and caught me. Firm, steady, strong. Careful there, a voice said, warm with amusement. You look like someone who's not used to falling. I looked up. She wasn't conventionally beautiful in the glossy, airbrushed way I'd become accustomed to. She wasn't trying to be anything other than exactly herself. And somehow she was the most magnetic person I'd ever encountered. Sharp eyes that actually saw. A smile that suggested she knew jokes the rest of the world hadn't figured out yet. Confidence that didn't need validation. She released me before I could stammer a thank you, then glanced back with a grin that made my chest do something strange. Watch your step, princess. Before I could respond, before I could even process being called princess, she hopped over the staircase railing, like physics was a suggestion, not a law. She landed beside a motorcycle that had seen better years. Yao pulled on a scratched helmet and kicked the engine to life. She looked at me one more time, smiled, and roared away. I stood there long after the sound faded, heart hammering for reasons I couldn't articulate. I didn't know her name, didn't know her story, didn't know anything except that something fundamental had just shifted in my carefully controlled universe. Her name was Kiara. I discovered this when I saw her again 3 days later, slouched in the back of my literature class, sketching something in the margins of her notebook. When she entered any room, the energy changed. Not because she demanded attention. She didn't seem to want it. She simply existed so fully, so unapologetically, that people couldn't help but notice. She argued with professors, made terrible jokes that somehow landed, defended underdogs without making it performative. People gravitated toward her, but she didn't need their orbit. Then she noticed me, and that confused me more than anything fame had ever thrown at me. Princess. She dropped into the seat beside me uninvited. Still standing upright, I see. Proud of you. I blinked. My name isn't... I know, but you walk like someone's carrying you on a cushion. It's adorable. She grinned, pulling out earbuds. You new here? Yes, thought so. You have that lost rich kid trying to find himself energy. She wasn't wrong, but not for the reasons she assumed. Don't worry. Happens to the best of us. She pulled me into conversations I had no idea how to navigate, teased me when I didn't understand pop culture references my handlers had deemed beneath me. Didn't flinch when I admitted I'd never taken public transportation before. When we grabbed lunch together, her idea, not mine. She didn't ask about my background, my family, my mysterious lack of social media presence. She asked what music made me feel alive. No one had asked me what I actually liked in years. Jazz, I admitted, surprising myself. Old jazz, the kind that sounds like rain. She smiled. Didn't peg you for a jazz person. Thought you'd say classical. Something proper. Everyone thinks that. Well, she said, stealing a fry from my plate without asking. Everyone's wrong then. We started spending time together, not dates. Neither of us called them that. Just moments strung together like lights in the darkness. Late night diners where we were the only customers, sharing fries and philosophies that made no sense. Long walks through neighborhoods I'd never known existed in my own city. Comfortable silences that didn't need filling with clever words. She worked evenings at a restaurant downtown, pulling double shifts to chip away at her mother's medical debt. Between classes and work, she sketched motorcycle designs, intricate, beautiful machines that existed only in her imagination. This one, she showed me her notebook one night, would be electric, silent, fast enough to outrun your demons, but quiet enough to hear yourself think. It's beautiful, I said honestly. It's a fantasy. She closed the notebook. Dreams don't pay bills. Her life wasn't easy. It was complicated, messy, full of real problems that didn't resolve in 2 hours with commercial breaks, but it was honest. And slowly, dangerously, I fell completely in love. Oh, not with an idea of someone, not with a fantasy constructed by screenwriters, not with someone playing a role. With her, the real, complicated, brilliant her. But love built on silence is a house of cards in a windstorm. She hated celebrities. The revelation came casually one evening, triggered by a news story playing on the diner's television. God, I can't stand actors, she said, voice heavy with disgust, especially the famous ones. They forget they're human. Everything's performance. Everything's fake. My blood ran cold. That's a generalization, I managed. Maybe, but I knew one once. Went to school with him before he got famous. Her jaw tightened. Fame turned him into someone unrecognizable, cruel, so obsessed with his image that he destroyed anyone who threatened it. She didn't name him, but I knew the story. Everyone in the industry did. Not all of them are like that, I said quietly. Enough are. She looked at me directly. Promise me something. If you ever get famous, if you ever have that kind of power, stay human. Don't let it twist you. The irony nearly broke me. I promise, I whispered, hating myself. I wanted to tell her. So many times the truth climbed up my throat, desperate to be spoken, but fear paralyzed me every time. Fear that the moment she knew, everything would shatter, that she'd look at me with disgust instead of warmth, that I'd lose the only place I'd ever felt genuinely real. So I stayed quiet, and with every passing day, the lie grew heavier, more suffocating than fame had ever been. Truth doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't care if you're ready. Someone recognized me at a coffee shop. Just one person. One photograph taken from across the street. One post that said, "Wait, is this him?" By the next morning, it had exploded. My face was everywhere again. Screenshots, analysis videos, conspiracy theories. Celebrity gossip sites ran headlines. Where has he been? Social media erupted. My carefully constructed anonymity burned to ash in hours. I walked into class and the whispers started immediately. Students stared, pointed. Phones appeared. And across the room, Kiara stood frozen. Her eyes found mine across the chaos. For a moment, everything else fell away. I saw confusion, realization, then something worse than anger, betrayal. Kiara, I started moving toward her. She turned and walked out. I ran after her, pushed through the crowd of students, suddenly seeing me as a celebrity instead of a person. Kiara, please, let me explain. She spun around in the empty hallway. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That every conversation was performance? That I was, research for a role? No, it wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Her voice cracked. Who even are you? The question destroyed me because I didn't know how to answer. I'm the same person I've always been with you, I said desperately. Everything between us was real. Was it? Tears glittered in her eyes. Because the person I knew didn't exist. He was just another character you were playing. That's not true. You knew how I felt about fame, about celebrities, about liars. She stepped back. And you let me fall for someone who wasn't real. I am real, the words burst out. This, us, that was the only real thing in my entire life. She looked at me for a long moment. I don't know if I believe you, she said quietly. Then she walked away. I didn't follow. What could I possibly say that would matter? 3 days later, I stood behind a podium facing a sea of cameras and reporters. My publicist had written a statement. My mother had approved talking points. Everyone had opinions about damage control. I threw it all away. I owe everyone an explanation, I began, voice unsteady. But more importantly, I owe someone the truth, Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters leaned forward. I didn't go abroad. I didn't take a sabbatical for inspiration. I gripped the podium. I hid because I was drowning. Because fame had consumed everything that made me human. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. I wanted to know if someone could love me without the noise. Without the fame, the image, the performance. I wanted to be ordinary, just once. Just long enough to remember what real felt like. I looked directly at the cameras, hoping somehow she was watching. I found something I never expected. I found someone who saw past everything I'd been taught to be, and loved the person I'd forgotten I could be. Tears blurred my vision. I was a coward. I was afraid that the truth would destroy the only genuine connection I'd ever had. So I hid. And in hiding, I hurt someone who deserved nothing but honesty. I took a shaking breath. I don't know if she'll forgive me. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but I learned something in those months of anonymity. Something no script, no director, no amount of applause ever taught me. I paused, letting the weight of the words settle. Love doesn't come from being admired. It comes from being truly seen. And sometimes you have to lose everything. Perhaps the fame, the image, the world's attention, to finally hear your own heart. The room erupted with questions. I walked away without answering a single one. I went to the lake where we used to sit and talk until sunrise. The city's noise faded there, it always had. That's why we loved it. She was standing by the water. I didn't announce myself. She'd heard me approach. She always noticed everything. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Just stood there, two people who'd shared something real in a world of facades. Finally, she spoke. You were real with me. It wasn't quite a question. Always, I said. That was the only time I wasn't acting. She nodded slowly. But you were afraid. Terrified, I admitted, of losing the first real thing I'd ever had. She turned to look at me then, not with adoration like a fan, not with curiosity like a stranger, but with the careful evaluation of someone deciding whether to trust again. So what happens now? I swallowed hard. No more hiding, no more lies. Just me, whatever that means. Whoever that is. The silence stretched. Then, impossibly, she smiled. Good, she said softly, because I don't want a perfect story with a perfect ending. She took a step closer. I want a true one, with all the messy, complicated, difficult parts. Even the fame, I asked. Even the fame. She reached for my hand. As long as the person behind it stays real. Our fingers intertwined. I can promise that, I whispered. Then that's enough, she said. Fame didn't disappear after that. It never does. The world still knew my face, still wanted pieces of me, still generated noise and chaos and constant demands, but it no longer defined me. Because somewhere between disappearing and being found, between hiding and confession, between fear and courage, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Love doesn't come from being perfect. It doesn't come from being extraordinary or famous or admired by millions. It comes from being seen, truly seen, by one person who knows all your flaws, all your fears, all the broken parts you try to hide, and chooses you anyway. Sometimes you have to lose the world's attention to finally find yourself.